The sound started 3 weeks ago, a soft buzzing that didn't match Vivian's regular ringtone. At first, I thought it was the washing machine acting up again, or maybe the old dishwasher finally giving up the ghost. But tonight, as I'm fixing the kitchen faucet at 11:30, I hear it coming from her gym bag. My name is Bennett Walsh, and I'm an engineer who fixes things for a living. Pipes, circuits, broken machinery. I understand how systems work, how they break down, and how to spot when something doesn't belong. That buzzing sound? It doesn't belong. Vivian is upstairs, supposedly asleep after her exhausting day at the law firm. She's been having a lot of those lately. Exhausting days that require extra showers, new perfume, and mysterious Wednesday evening yoga classes that never appear on any gym schedule I can find online. The gym bag sits by the back door, ready for tomorrow's early morning workout. I've been married to this woman for 18 years, and she's never been an early morning anything. But lately, she's become a fitness enthusiast, a wellness warrior, a woman who needs special workout clothes that cost more than my monthly car payment. I dry my hands on the dish towel and approach the bag like it might explode. The buzzing comes again, short, insistent, definitely a phone. Not her iPhone with its familiar chime, but something else entirely. My fingers find the zipper. Inside, beneath her designer water bottle and matching towel set, there's a second phone. A cheap Android with a cracked screen protector, the kind you buy with cash at mall kiosks. The kind that doesn't require contracts or credit checks or any paper trail connecting it to Vivian Walsh, respected partner at Henderson & Associates. The screen lights up with a text notification. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, Michelle. Same place, same time. B. Michelle. I stare at the name for a full minute, letting it sink in. My wife of 18 years, mother of our 17-year-old daughter Casey, pillar of the community, and member of 3 different charitable boards, has a secret phone. On this phone, she's not Vivian Walsh, attorney at law. She's Michelle. The phone buzzes again. Another message from B. Thinking about last Wednesday. You're incredible. Last Wednesday, when she was supposedly at yoga, learning about chakras and inner peace. I screenshot both messages, then scroll through the conversation history. 6 months of texts, photos, and planning sessions for hotel meetups. 6 months of Michelle living a completely different life, single, childless, free to meet random men at roadside motels. The messages paint a picture of a woman I don't recognize. Michelle loves expensive wine and hates domestic beer. She's training for a marathon and dreams of traveling to Italy. She's never been married and thinks children are life-limiting. Michelle drives a red convertible and lives in a downtown loft. Vivian drives a sensible Honda and complains about our mortgage payments. I scroll further back, finding the dating app notifications. Michelle's profile is a masterpiece of fiction. A successful marketing executive, age 34, looking for adventure and authentic connections. The photos are definitely my wife, but taken at angles and locations I don't recognize. In one, she's wearing a dress I've never seen, laughing at what appears to be a wine bar I've never been to. My hands shake as I continue scrolling. Hotel confirmations under the name Michelle Stevens. Credit card statements for an account I never knew existed. Restaurant reservations, concert tickets, weekend trips. An entire parallel life funded by money that should have been going toward Casey's college fund. The most recent credit card statement shows charges from 3 different hotels, all on days when Vivian claimed to be working late or attending continuing education seminars. The amounts are staggering. She's been spending money like she's single with no responsibilities, because in Michelle's world, she is. I photograph everything, creating a digital archive of my wife's double life. The evidence is overwhelming, methodical, and absolutely damning. Every Wednesday, yoga class corresponds to a hotel charge. Every work dinner matches up with expensive restaurant bills for 2. The phone buzzes with a new message. Sweet dreams, beautiful. Tomorrow can't come fast enough. I look at the timestamp. 11:47 p.m. Vivian went to bed an hour ago, claiming exhaustion. Apparently, maintaining two identities is tiring work. I replace the phone exactly where I found it, zip the gym bag closed, and finish fixing the faucet. My hands work automatically while my mind processes the magnitude of what I've discovered. 18 years of marriage, and I'm living with a complete stranger. But here's the thing about being an engineer. When you find a problem, you fix it. And when you find a system that's been corrupted, you don't just patch it. You rebuild it from the ground up. I walk to the kitchen phone, the old landline we kept for emergencies. My finger hovers over the keypad as I memorize Michelle's number from the screenshots. Then I dial. It rings twice before she answers, her voice soft and sultry. Hello? Hi, Michelle, I say, keeping my voice steady and professional. This is your husband. We need to talk about the divorce. The silence stretches for exactly 17 seconds. I count them. Bennett? Her voice cracks, caught between two identities on one phone line. Actually, I think you mean Vivian. Michelle doesn't have a husband, remember? Michelle is single, no kids, living her best life in that downtown loft. I pause, letting the words sink in. But Vivian? Vivian has a husband who just found her secret phone. Vivian has a daughter who's going to be very interested in how her college fund got spent on hotel rooms. Vivian has a law practice that probably wouldn't appreciate knowing about her creative accounting. Bennett, I can explain. No need. The phone explains everything. 6 months of explanations, actually. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, dating profiles. It's all very thorough documentation. I hear her moving upstairs, probably realizing the gym bag is downstairs and I'm downstairs, and her secret just became our shared reality. What do you want? She whispers. I want you to come down here and look me in the eye while you explain how Michelle Stevens came to exist. I want you to tell me which parts of our marriage were real and which parts were just convenient cover for your double life. And then I want you to help me figure out how we're going to handle this divorce without destroying Casey's senior year. Divorce? The word comes out strangled. Michelle is single, right? She's never been married, has no kids, lives in a downtown loft. Sounds like Michelle got exactly what she wanted. The only problem is Vivian is still married to me, and that's about to change. I hang up the landline and wait. Upstairs, I hear frantic movement, drawers opening and closing, the sound of someone getting dressed in a hurry. The floorboards creak as she moves toward the stairs. My phone buzzes with a text from my attorney friend Jake. Got your message. Holy hell, Bennett. This is ironclad evidence. Call me tomorrow, and we'll discuss options. I'd forwarded him the screenshots while waiting for Vivian to process her new reality. Jake specializes in family law, and he's seen enough cheating spouses to know solid documentation when he sees it. But he's never seen anything quite like Michelle Stevens, a completely fabricated identity, funded with marital assets, designed to erase 18 years of shared history. Vivian appears in the kitchen doorway, still wearing her pajamas, but with a robe pulled tight around her shoulders like armor. Her face is pale, eyes wide with the realization that her carefully constructed double life just collapsed in a single phone call. How long have you known? She asks. About 3 hours, but I've been suspicious for months. The Wednesday yoga classes that don't exist, the work dinners that require new dresses, the sudden interest in fitness and wellness and finding yourself. I gesture toward the gym bag. Turns out you found yourself, all right. You found Michelle. She sits down heavily at the kitchen table, the same table where we've shared 18 years of meals, homework help, and family discussions. Now, it feels like neutral territory in a war zone. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she says. How was it supposed to happen? Were you planning to just disappear one day? Leave a note saying Vivian moved out but Michelle moved on? I don't know. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. 6 months, Vivian. 6 months of hotel rooms and restaurant bills and living a complete fantasy. That's not a momentary lapse in judgment. That's a calculated decision to erase your real life and replace it with something else. She looks up at me, and for a moment, I see something that might be regret. But then her lawyer instincts kick in. and her expression hardens. "What evidence do you think you have?" she asks. I almost laugh. Even caught red-handed, she's trying to negotiate from a position of strength. Screenshots of every text message, photos of every hotel receipt, documentation of the secret credit card and bank account, your dating profile with enough personal information to prove identity fraud. And the best part? I have recordings of Michelle's phone calls because apparently you pocket dial your own voicemail quite a bit. That last part isn't true, but her reaction tells me everything I need to know. She's been sloppy, and she knows it. Jake will have the preliminary paperwork ready by Friday, I continue. We can do this quietly, or we can do it publicly. Your choice. But Michelle Stevens is about to become a very expensive fantasy. The next morning feels like waking up in someone else's house. Vivian is gone before I get up, her car absent from the driveway, gym bag vanished, no note or explanation. Just empty coffee mug in the sink and the lingering scent of that expensive perfume she started wearing 6 months ago. Casey stumbles into the kitchen at 7:30, already dressed for school and scrolling through her phone like it contains the secrets of the universe. At 17, she's inherited her mother's sharp intelligence and my stubborn streak, a combination that makes her formidable in arguments and impossible to fool. "Where's Mom?" she asks, grabbing a granola bar from the pantry. "Early meeting," I lie, because what's the alternative? Your mother has been living a double life as a single woman named Michelle, and we're getting divorced. Casey nods absently, more interested in whatever drama is unfolding on her Instagram feed than family breakfast conversations. I watch her for a moment, trying to memorize this last morning of normalcy before everything changes. "Dad, you're staring. It's weird. Sorry, just thinking about work stuff." She grabs her backpack and heads for the door, pausing only to ask, "Can you pick me up after school? Mom said she might be late." "Sure thing." After Casey leaves, the house feels hollow. I make another pot of coffee and sit at the kitchen table with my laptop, reviewing the screenshots from last night. In daylight, the evidence looks even more damaging. Michelle's dating profile is a work of fiction so elaborate it borders on identity theft. She claims to work for a marketing firm that doesn't exist, lives at an address that's actually a Starbucks, and lists hobbies that include rock climbing and wine tasting, two things Vivian has never shown any interest in. The credit card statements tell a different story. Real charges at real places, funded by transfers from our joint savings account. Money that was supposed to be for Casey's college, the new roof we've been discussing, the vacation we've been planning for our 20th anniversary. My phone rings. Jake. "Bennett, I've been reviewing the materials you sent. This is some next-level deception. I've seen cheating spouses before, but creating an entirely fake identity? That's pathological. What are my options? Legally? You have airtight proof of financial infidelity, which in this state supports a fault-based divorce. The hidden accounts, the fraudulent spending, the systematic deception, it's a prosecutor's dream. She'll be fortunate to receive supervised visitation, let alone any alimony. And practically? That depends on how vindictive you want to be. We can keep this quiet, negotiate a settlement, and have you divorced within 6 months. Or we can make it public, involve the State Bar Association, and turn this into a cautionary tale about professional ethics. I think about Casey, about the gossip mill in our small town, about the life Vivian has built as a respected attorney. Then I think about 6 months of lies, hotel receipts, and the casual way she erased our family from her fantasy life. Let's start with quiet negotiations. But Jake, keep the nuclear option ready. Understood. I'll draft preliminary papers and reach out to her attorney. Speaking of which, does she know you've lawyered up? She will soon enough. After hanging up, I do something I haven't done in months. I call in sick to work. Not because I'm ill, but because I need to understand the full scope of Michelle's world before Vivian figures out how to contain the damage. The first stop is the gym where she supposedly takes Wednesday yoga classes. It's a upscale fitness center downtown, the kind of place where memberships cost more than some people's car payments. The desk attendant is a perky blonde who looks like she lives on protein shakes and positive thinking. I'm looking for information about Wednesday evening yoga classes, I tell her. We don't offer yoga on Wednesday evenings, she says brightly. Wednesday is spin class and Pilates. Yoga is Monday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings. Are you sure? My wife said she's been coming here for months for Wednesday yoga. The girl's expression shifts slightly, recognizing the tone of a suspicious spouse. What's your wife's name? Vivian Walsh, or she might go by Michelle Stevens. She types both names into her computer, then shakes her head. Neither name shows up in our system. We've never had a member by either name. I thank her and leave, adding another lie to the growing pile. Vivian has been disappearing every Wednesday for 6 months, claiming yoga classes that don't exist at a gym where she's not a member. The second stop is the hotel where Michelle met B last Wednesday. It's a mid-range chain about 20 minutes from our house, the kind of place that caters to business travelers and people who need rooms by the hour. The desk clerk is less helpful than the gym attendant, citing privacy policies and corporate regulations. But the parking lot tells its own story, secluded, poorly lit, with easy highway access, perfect for clandestine meetings. I'm sitting in my car, staring at room 237, where the credit card statement says, Michelle spent 3 hours last Wednesday, when my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Coffee shop on Main Street, 1 hour. V. She's using a different phone now, probably assuming I've compromised Michelle's device. Smart move, but it doesn't change the fundamental problem. I have 6 months of evidence, and she has 18 years of marriage to explain away. The coffee shop is neutral territory, a local place where we used to bring Casey when she was younger. Vivian is already there when I arrive, sitting in a corner booth with her back to the wall like she's expecting an ambush. She's wearing her professional armor, expensive suit, perfect makeup, hair styled to project competence and authority. Thank you for coming, she says as I slide into the opposite seat. Did I have a choice? Bennett, we need to discuss how we're going to handle this situation. Situation? I signal the waitress for coffee. Is that what we're calling 6 months of systematic deception? A situation? I know you're angry. Angry doesn't begin to cover it. Angry is what you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic. This is something else entirely. The waitress brings my coffee and retreats, sensing the tension radiating from our table. Vivian waits until we're alone again before continuing. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? What was the end game here, Vivian? Were you planning to just disappear one day? Stage your own demise and resurface as Michelle in another state? Of course not. I'm not crazy. Then explain it to me. Explain how a rational person creates an entirely fake identity, complete with dating profiles and secret bank accounts. Explain how that same rational person spends her daughter's college fund on hotel rooms and expensive dinners with strangers. She stares into her coffee cup like it contains answers to questions she hasn't figured out how to ask yet. It started as a joke, she says finally. Monica at work was showing me these dating apps, talking about how easy it would be to create a fake profile just to see what kind of responses you'd get. It seemed harmless. Monica from your office? She knew about this? She helped me set up the profile initially. We were just curious about what was out there, what we were missing. And then? And then I started getting messages. Interesting messages from interesting people. Men who wanted to know about my dreams, my goals, my thoughts on art and travel and philosophy. Men who weren't interested in discussing mortgage payments or Casey's grades or whether we needed new gutters. Men who didn't know you were married. Men who saw me as an individual, not just someone's wife or someone's mother. I take a sip of coffee and study her face. There's something almost wistful in her expression, like she's describing a vacation to a place she can never visit again. So you decided to become Michelle full-time. Not full-time, just sometimes, when I needed to remember who I used to be before I became half of a couple. And the hotel rooms, the expensive dinners, the secret credit card? That was later, after I started meeting people in person. People. Plural. She nods, not meeting my eyes. How many people, Vivian? Does it matter? It matters to me. It matters to the divorce settlement. And it's definitely going to matter to Casey when she finds out why her college fund disappeared. 7, she whispers. 7 different men over 6 months. I set down my coffee cup carefully, afraid I might throw it otherwise. 7 men. 7 separate betrayals, each one documented in Michelle's phone with hotel receipts and restaurant bills. Were you planning to tell me? Ever? I don't know, maybe. I thought about it sometimes, especially when you'd ask about my day or make plans for our anniversary. But then I'd think about how disappointed you'd be, how it would change everything between us. It already has changed everything between us. The only difference is now I know about it. She looks up at me then, and I see tears in her eyes. Real tears, not the calculated emotion of someone trying to manipulate a situation. I'm sorry, Bennett. I'm so sorry. Sorry you did it or sorry you got caught? Both. Neither. I don't know anymore. Well, here's what I know. Jake is drafting divorce papers. You have until Friday to get your own attorney and decide how cooperative you want to be. We can handle this quietly and focus on what's best for Casey, or we can make it public and let the whole town know about Michelle Stevens and her expensive hobbies. You wouldn't do that to Casey. I'm not the one who did this to Casey. I'm not the one who spent her college fund on fantasy relationships. I'm not the one who's been lying to her for 6 months about where I spend my evenings. Vivian's face hardens, the tears disappearing as quickly as they appeared. If you try to destroy my reputation, I'll fight back. I know things about you too, Bennett. Things that wouldn't look good in divorce court. Such as? The drinking, the late nights at that gym with your ex-cop friend, the way you've been distant and cold for the past year. I almost laugh. You're going to claim I drove you to create a fake identity because I have a beer with Nate after work and go to the gym? Good luck with that defense. Emotional neglect is a real thing. So is financial fraud. So is adultery. So is systematic deception involving false identities and stolen marital assets. I stand up, leaving a $5 bill on the table for the coffee. Friday, Vivian. Have your attorney call Jake by Friday or this gets complicated. Bennett, wait. I pause at the edge of the booth. What happens to us? To our family? We don't have a family anymore. We have a 17-year-old daughter who's about to learn that her mother has been living a double life, and 2 adults who need to figure out how to co-parent while living in separate houses. And Michelle? Michelle never existed. She was always just Vivian's way of avoiding the consequences of her choices. But consequences have a way of catching up, don't they? I leave her sitting in the coffee shop, staring at her reflection in the window. Outside, the October air is crisp and clean, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and the promise of winter. It feels like the first honest breath I've taken in months. By Thursday morning, Vivian still hasn't contacted an attorney. I know this because Jake called to inform me that no one has reached out to discuss settlement negotiations, which means she's either in denial or planning something. I'm betting on planning something. Casey notices the tension at breakfast, the way Vivian and I move around each other like polite strangers sharing the same space. She's always been perceptive, too smart for her own good, and the careful distance between her parents isn't lost on her. Are you guys fighting? She asks, looking up from her phone. We're working through some issues, Vivian says smoothly, her lawyer training kicking in with a diplomatic non-answer. What kind of issues? Adult issues, I say. Nothing for you to worry about. Casey rolls her eyes. I'm 17, not 7. I can handle whatever's going on. Vivian and I exchange a look across the kitchen. Our daughter thinks she can handle the truth, but the truth is that her mother has been living as a single woman named Michelle, spending Casey's college fund on hotel rooms with strangers. Some truths are harder to handle than others. "We'll talk about it this weekend," Vivian promises, "after we figure some things out." Casey shrugs and returns to her phone, apparently satisfied with the delay. At 17, this weekend might as well be next year in terms of emotional urgency. After Casey leaves for school, Vivian disappears upstairs to get ready for work. I hear the shower running, then the hairdryer, then the careful sounds of someone applying makeup and selecting the perfect outfit for whatever battle she's planning to fight today. She comes downstairs wearing her most expensive suit, the one she reserves for important court appearances and partnership meetings. Her briefcase is packed, her expression determined, and she moves with the focused energy of someone who's made a decision. "We'll talk tonight," she says, not quite meeting my eyes. "Will we? Or will you be at another yoga class that doesn't exist?" "I'll be home by 6. We need to discuss how we're going to handle this situation before it gets out of control." "It's already out of control, Vivian. It's been out of control for 6 months. She pauses at the door, her hand on the knob. "I'm going to fix this, Bennett. I'm going to make it right." "How? Are you going to travel back in time and not create Michelle Stevens? Are you going to magically restore Casey's college fund? Are you going to erase 6 months of lies?" "I'm going to do whatever it takes to save our marriage." She leaves before I can respond, which is probably for the best. Because what I want to say is that our marriage ended the moment she decided to become someone else, someone single and childless and free from the responsibilities of being Bennett's wife and Casey's mother. I spend the morning at work, trying to focus on engineering problems that have clear solutions and predictable outcomes. It's a relief to deal with systems that behave according to physical laws, where cause and effect follow logical patterns, and you can trust the data in front of you. But even the most complex technical challenges can't distract me from the growing certainty that Vivian is planning something. She's too calm, too focused, too confident for someone whose secret life just exploded. In 18 years of marriage, I've learned to recognize her different moods and strategies, and this morning felt like preparation for war. At lunch, I drive to the law firm where she works. Henderson and Associates occupies the top 3 floors of the nicest building downtown, all glass and steel and expensive furniture designed to project success and stability. I've been here dozens of times for holiday parties and family events, but today I'm seeing it through different eyes. This is where Michelle Stevens was born, where Vivian and Monica created a fake identity as a joke that turned into something more serious. This is where my wife spent months planning her double life, using company computers and work phones to coordinate hotel meetings and restaurant reservations. I don't go inside. Instead, I sit in the parking garage and watch the building, trying to understand how the woman I married could compartmentalize so completely. How do you spend 8 hours a day being Vivian Walsh, respected attorney and family woman, then switch to being Michelle Stevens, single and available for expensive dinners with strangers? My phone buzzes with a text from Nate. "Heard through the grapevine that you're having some personal issues. Want to talk about it over a beer tonight?" Nate runs the boxing gym where I've been working out for the past 5 years. He's an ex-cop with good instincts and better connections, the kind of friend who knows when something is wrong before you tell him about it. He's also discreet, loyal, and completely unimpressed by lawyers and their games. I text back, "Rain check, family meeting tonight." "Roger that. But if you need backup, you know where to find me." That's Nate in a nutshell. Offering support without asking questions, ready to help without needing explanations. It's the kind of friendship that develops between men who've both learned that life doesn't always follow the script you write for it. I drive home early, wanting to be there when Casey gets back from school. If tonight is going to be the night we tell our daughter that her family is falling apart, I want to spend a few more hours pretending everything is normal. Casey arrives at 3:30 full of stories about drama class auditions and college application deadlines. She's excited about her senior year, making plans for graduation parties and discussing which universities have the best programs for her intended major. The future stretches ahead of her, bright with possibilities, and untouched by the knowledge that her college fund has been spent on her mother's fantasy life. "Dad, you're doing that staring thing again," she says, looking up from her homework. "Sorry, just thinking about how fast you've grown up." "Ugh, please don't get all sentimental on me. I still have 8 months of high school left." 8 months isn't very long. It's long enough. Besides, you and Mom will be fine once I'm gone. You'll probably turn my room into an office or something. The casual assumption that Vivian and I will still be together next year hits harder than I expected. Casey has no idea that her parents are about to become a cautionary tale about the dangers of taking marriage for granted. At 5:30, I start making dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and salad, but it gives me something to do with my hands while I wait for Vivian to come home and explain whatever strategy she's developed for fixing our situation. She arrives at exactly 6 o'clock, still wearing the expensive suit but looking less confident than she did this morning. Her briefcase seems heavier, her movements more careful, like she's carrying something fragile that might break if handled roughly. "Smells good," she says, hanging her coat in the closet. "Casey's upstairs finishing homework. I thought we could eat first, then talk." "Actually, I think we should talk first. There's something I need to show you." She opens her briefcase and pulls out a thick manila folder, the kind lawyers use for important documents. Inside are papers I don't recognize, forms with official letterheads and legal language. "What is this?" "Voluntary commitment papers. I'm checking myself into a residential treatment program for behavioral addiction. 30 days, maybe 60, depending on what the doctors recommend." I stare at the papers, trying to process what she's telling me. Treatment for what? "The therapist I saw today thinks I have an addiction to fantasy and escapism. The fake identity, the secret relationships, the financial deception. It's all symptomatic of someone who's using external validation to avoid dealing with underlying psychological issues." "You saw a therapist today?" "Dr. Patricia Hendricks. She specializes in behavioral addictions and relationship disorders. She thinks the Michelle persona was my way of avoiding the anxiety and depression I've been feeling about getting older, about Casey leaving for college, about feeling trapped in a life that doesn't match my expectations." "So, this is a medical condition now?" "It's a treatable condition. With proper therapy and medication, I can overcome the compulsive behaviors and rebuild trust in our relationship." I sit down at the kitchen table, still holding the commitment papers. The strategy is brilliant in its simplicity. Transform adultery and financial fraud into a medical condition that requires treatment rather than punishment. Instead of being the villain in our divorce story, Vivian becomes the victim of her own psychological disorder. "When do you start this treatment?" "Tomorrow morning. I've already arranged for a leave of absence from work, and I've spoken to Casey about the need for me to address some personal health issues." "You told Casey?" "I told her I'm going away for a few weeks to work on some problems that have been affecting our family. She's worried, but she understands that sometimes adults need professional help to deal with stress and anxiety." "And the divorce?" "I'm hoping we can postpone any legal proceedings until after I complete treatment. Dr. Hendricks thinks there's a good chance we can work through this if we approach it as a medical issue rather than a moral failure." The papers feel heavy in my hands, weighted with legal implications I don't fully understand. If Vivian checks herself into treatment, it changes the entire dynamic of our divorce proceedings. Instead of being the wronged husband seeking justice, I become the unsympathetic spouse who abandoned his wife during her mental health crisis. What about the money, Casey's college fund? The treatment center has a financial counselor who specializes in helping patients make restitution for damage caused during active addiction. We'll work out a repayment plan as part of my recovery program. And Michelle? Michelle was a symptom of my underlying condition. Once I addressed the root causes of my addictive behavior, the compulsion to maintain a false identity will disappear. I look up at her, standing in our kitchen in her expensive suit, holding commitment papers that transform 6 months of calculated deception into a treatable medical condition. The woman who created Michelle Stevens, who spent our daughter's college fund on fantasy relationships, who lied to my face for half a year, is now presenting herself as someone who needs help rather than consequences. This is very convenient, I say finally. It's not convenient. It's necessary. Bennett, I'm asking you to give me a chance to fix what I broke. I'm asking you to let me get the help I need so we can rebuild our marriage on a foundation of honesty and trust. Honesty and trust? You spent 6 months being someone else entirely? You created a fake identity, opened secret accounts, and systematically lied about where you were and what you were doing. That's not addiction, Vivian. That's choice. Addiction is about compulsive choices. It's about using external behaviors to avoid internal pain. That's exactly what I was doing with Michelle. And what about the 7 men? Were they treating your addiction too? She flinches at the number, probably hoping I'd forgotten that detail from our coffee shop conversation. The relationships were part of the addictive pattern, seeking validation from strangers instead of working on the issues in my marriage. Issues in our marriage that you never mentioned until you got caught. I'm mentioning them now. I'm asking for a chance to address them properly, with professional guidance. Casey's footsteps on the stairs interrupt our conversation. She appears in the kitchen doorway, backpack slung over her shoulder, looking between us with the sharp awareness of someone who knows she's walked into the middle of something important. Is everything okay? You both look really serious. Vivian moves toward her, the commitment papers forgotten on the table. Honey, we need to talk about something. I'm going away for a few weeks to get some help with stress and anxiety issues that have been affecting our family. What kind of help? Residential treatment, like a hospital, but for people who need intensive therapy for psychological problems. Casey looks at me, searching for confirmation or contradiction. I nod slightly, not trusting myself to speak without revealing more than Vivian once shared. Are you okay, Mom? Are you having a breakdown or something? I'm going to be fine, but I need professional help to work through some issues that have been building up for a while. Your dad and I think it's the best way to make sure our family stays strong. How long will you be gone? At least 30 days, maybe longer depending on what the doctors recommend. Casey absorbs this information with the resilience of someone who's grown up watching her parents navigate the complexities of adult life. She's seen friends' families go through divorces, parents struggle with job stress and health problems, the normal chaos that accompanies middle age. Will I be able to visit you? After the first 2 weeks, yes, and we can talk on the phone every few days. What about graduation and college applications and all the senior year stuff? I'll be back for all of that. This is temporary, honey. It's something I need to do to make sure I'm the best mother and wife I can be. Casey nods, accepting the explanation with the trust of someone who's never had reason to doubt her mother's word. She doesn't know about Michelle Stevens or secret credit cards or hotel receipts. In her world, her mother is simply taking time to address some personal problems, the way adults sometimes do. Okay, she says finally, but you have to promise to call me. I promise. After Casey goes back upstairs, Vivian and I stand in the kitchen, the commitment papers still spread across the table like evidence in a case neither of us wants to argue. So what happens now? I ask. Now I check into treatment tomorrow morning, and you decide whether you want to fight me or help me. Help you do what? Help me save our marriage. Help me become the person you fell in love with 18 years ago. Help me prove that Michelle Stevens was an aberration, not the real me. I look at the papers again, thinking about Jake's advice, about Casey's college fund, about 6 months of systematic deception disguised as medical necessity. I need time to think about this. I understand. But Bennett, while you're thinking, remember that I'm choosing treatment over denial. I'm choosing honesty over cover-up. I'm choosing to fight for us instead of running away. You already ran away. You ran away to become Michelle. And now I'm running back. The question is whether you'll be here when I get back. She gathers the papers and heads upstairs, leaving me alone in the kitchen with the smell of cooling spaghetti and the weight of a decision I never thought I'd have to make. Outside, the October evening is settling into darkness, and I can hear the distant sound of high school football practice from the field behind our house. Normal sounds of normal life, continuing unchanged while my world reshapes itself around the revelation that the woman I married has been living as someone else. I call Jake. She's checking herself into treatment, I tell him. Behavioral addiction, psychological disorder, the whole medical model defense. Smart move. Makes it much harder to pursue fault-based divorce if she's addressing the behavior as a medical condition. What are my options? You can proceed with the divorce regardless of her treatment status, or you can wait and see if she actually follows through with recovery. The choice is yours. But Bennett, don't let her reframe 6 months of calculated deception as a medical emergency. Addiction doesn't excuse fraud. And if I wait? Then you're gambling that she's genuinely committed to change rather than just buying time to develop a better legal strategy. After hanging up, I sit at the kitchen table and try to imagine what our life might look like if Vivian actually follows through with treatment. Can someone who created an entirely false identity really change? Can trust be rebuilt after such a complete betrayal? Or is this just Michelle's final performance, the ultimate manipulation disguised as recovery? Vivian leaves for treatment on Friday morning, driving herself to the facility with a single suitcase and the kind of determined expression she usually reserves for difficult court cases. Casey hugs her goodbye, making her promise to call over the weekend, while I stand in the doorway watching my wife of 18 years disappear down our street toward whatever help or strategy she's pursuing. The house feels different immediately, not empty exactly, but lighter somehow, like a weight has been lifted that I didn't realize I was carrying. For the first time in months, I don't have to wonder where Vivian really is or what she's actually doing. She's in treatment, addressing her behavioral addiction, and I'm free to figure out what comes next. Casey handles the transition better than I expected. She's busy with senior year activities, college applications, and the normal drama of being 17, which leaves little time for worrying about her mother's temporary absence. I pick her up from school, help with homework when needed, and try to maintain some version of normal family routine. But normal is relative when your wife has been living a double life. On Saturday morning, I'm fixing the garage door opener when Nate shows up with coffee and the kind of direct approach that makes him a good friend and probably made him a good cop. "Heard Vivian went away for a while," he says, handing me a cup. Word travels fast. Small town. Plus, Casey mentioned it to my daughter at school yesterday. Said her mom was getting help for stress and anxiety. That's the official story. What's the unofficial story? I tell him everything. The second phone, Michelle Stevens, the hotel receipts, the 6 months of systematic deception. Nate listens without interrupting, occasionally nodding or raising an eyebrow, but mostly just absorbing the information with the patience of someone who's heard plenty of human drama over the years. Holy hell, Bennett. That's not stress and anxiety. That's a complete alternate reality. Now she's claiming it's behavioral addiction, says she needs treatment to address the underlying psychological issues. You believe that? I don't know what to believe anymore. Maybe she does have some kind of compulsive disorder, or maybe she just got caught and this is her exit strategy. Nate takes a sip of coffee and studies the garage door mechanism I've been working on. You know what the problem is with this door? Worn gear assembly. Right. And you know how to fix it because you understand how the system is supposed to work. When something breaks, you can identify the problem and replace the broken part. Your point? My point is that people aren't garage door openers. You can't just replace the broken part and expect everything to work like it used to. Sometimes the whole system is compromised. So, what are you saying? I'm saying that creating a fake identity and living a double life for 6 months isn't a broken gear. It's a fundamental design flaw. I finish adjusting the door mechanism and test it. Smooth operation, no grinding or hesitation, fixed. But what if she really does change? What if the treatment works? Then you'll have a wife who needed professional help to remember that she's married. Is that the kind of person you want to trust with your future? It's a fair question, and one I've been avoiding since Vivian left for treatment. Even if she comes back completely reformed, genuinely remorseful, and committed to rebuilding our marriage, the fundamental question remains. How do you trust someone who proved capable of such elaborate deception? There's something else, I tell him. The money. She spent Casey's college fund on this fantasy life. Even if I forgive the emotional betrayal, there are practical consequences. How much? $12,000 over 6 months. Hotel rooms, expensive restaurants, new clothes for Michelle's wardrobe, the works. Nate whistles low. That's not impulse spending. That's systematic financial fraud. The treatment center supposedly has a financial counselor who helps patients make restitution. With what money? If she spent Casey's college fund, where's the restitution coming from? I have no idea. We work on the garage door in comfortable silence, 2 middle-aged men fixing something that can actually be fixed, while discussing something that probably can't be. It's therapeutic in its own way, the simple satisfaction of mechanical problems with mechanical solutions. You want some advice from an old cop? Nate asks eventually. Sure. People who create elaborate deceptions are usually hiding from something bigger than what they're deceiving you about. Michelle Stevens wasn't just about having affairs. She was about erasing Vivian Walsh entirely. Meaning? Meaning your wife didn't just cheat on you. She tried to escape from being your wife altogether. That's not addiction, Bennett. That's rejection. The words hit harder than I expected, probably because they ring true. Michelle Stevens wasn't just single and childless. She was specifically not married to me, not responsible for Casey, not tied to the life we'd built together. She was everything Vivian apparently didn't want to be. So what do I do? That depends. Do you want to be married to someone who needed to become someone else to be happy? Or do you want a chance to find someone who actually wants to be with you? It's a question I'll be thinking about for a long time. On Sunday evening, Vivian calls from treatment. Casey takes the call in her room while I listen from the hallway, trying to gauge the tone and content of their conversation. How's the food there? Casey asks. Are the other patients nice? Do you have a roommate? Normal questions from a daughter to her mother, treating the treatment center like summer camp or a business trip. Casey doesn't know that her mother is there because she spent 6 months pretending Casey didn't exist. Dad's been good, Casey continues. He fixed the garage door and made pancakes yesterday morning. Oh, and he's been letting me stay up later on school nights, but don't tell him I told you that. I smile despite myself. Casey's loyalty is split between us, but she's handling the situation with more grace than either of her parents. When can I visit? I want to see where you're staying. A pause, then. Okay, I understand. But you'll call again Wednesday, right? After Casey hangs up, she finds me in the living room pretending to read the newspaper. Mom sounds good, she reports. She says the place is nice and the counselors are helpful. She might be able to have visitors next weekend. That's great, honey. Dad, is Mom really going to be okay? It's the question I've been dreading because I don't know the answer. Is Vivian going to be okay? Is our family going to survive this? Is Casey going to understand someday why her college fund disappeared? Your mom is getting the help she needs, I say finally. Whatever happens, we're going to make sure you're okay. What do you mean, whatever happens? I mean that sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions about their relationships. But no matter what your mom and I decide about our marriage, We're both committed to being good parents to you." Casey studies my face with the intensity of someone trying to read between the lines. "Are you getting divorced? We're taking things one day at a time. Your mom's treatment is the priority right now. But you might get divorced." "It's possible. I'm sorry, Casey. I know this isn't what you want to hear." She nods slowly, processing the information with the resilience that continues to amaze me. "Will I still be able to go to college?" "Absolutely. Whatever happens between your mom and me, we'll make sure you can go to college." "Even if the money's gone?" The question catches me off guard. Casey knows about the missing college fund. "How do you know about the money?" "I'm not stupid, Dad. Mom's been spending money on new clothes and expensive dinners for months. Plus, she's been acting weird about finances, always changing the subject when you brought up college costs." "How long have you known?" "I started suspecting something a few weeks ago. When she came home with that expensive purse and claimed it was a gift from work. Nobody gives purses like that as work gifts." I look at my 17-year-old daughter, who apparently inherited her mother's intelligence and my suspicious nature. She's been watching our family fall apart with the clear-eyed assessment of someone who understands more than we gave her credit for. "Are you angry?" I ask. "I'm disappointed and confused. I don't understand why Mom would risk our family for whatever she was doing." "Neither do I, honey, neither do I." "But you're going to figure it out, right? You're going to make sure she gets better?" "I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. Beyond that, I honestly don't know what's going to happen." Casey curls up next to me on the couch, something she hasn't done in years. At 17, she's usually too busy or too cool for parental cuddling, but tonight she seems to need the reassurance of physical closeness. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Casey. More than you know. And I love Mom, even if she's been acting crazy." "She loves you too. Whatever else is happening, that's never been in question." We sit together in comfortable silence, watching a mindless television show and pretending that our family isn't in the process of imploding. It's a small moment of peace in the middle of chaos, and I try to memorize it because I have a feeling there won't be many more like it. On Monday morning, Jake calls with an update on the legal situation. "Vivian's attorney finally contacted me," he says. "They want to postpone all divorce proceedings until she completes treatment." "For how long?" 60 days minimum, possibly longer depending on her progress. "And if I refuse?" "Then we proceed with the original timeline, but they'll argue that you're interfering with her recovery and acting against the best interests of your family. So I'm trapped. Not trapped. But you need to decide whether you want to be seen as supportive or vindictive. Public perception matters in small towns, and right now the narrative is that your wife is bravely seeking help for a medical condition." "What about the financial fraud?" "Still fraud, regardless of her medical status. But it's harder to pursue if she's actively working on restitution as part of her treatment program." "This is unbelievable." "It's strategic. Vivian's playing this perfectly from a legal standpoint." After hanging up, I sit in my office staring at engineering drawings that make perfect sense compared to the chaos of my personal life. Clean lines, precise measurements, predictable outcomes, everything my marriage apparently wasn't. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "This is Monica from Vivian's office. Can we meet for coffee? There are things you need to know about Michelle." Monica, the co-worker who helped create Michelle Stevens as a joke. The woman who knew about my wife's double life and said nothing while I spent months wondering why Vivian seemed distant and distracted. I text back, "When and where?" "Today at lunch, same coffee shop where you met Vivian last week." "How do you know where we met?" "Because I know a lot more about this situation than you realize." I stare at the phone, wondering what other secrets are about to surface. How many people knew about Michelle Stevens? How many of our friends and neighbors were watching our marriage fall apart while pretending everything was normal? At lunch, I drive to the coffee shop with the growing certainty that my understanding of the situation is about to change again. Monica is already there when I arrive, sitting in the same corner booth where Vivian tried to explain her double life as a medical condition. Monica is younger than Vivian, probably mid-30s, with the kind of carefully maintained appearance that suggests she takes her professional image seriously. She's nervous, fidgeting with her coffee cup and checking her phone repeatedly. "Thank you for meeting me," she says as I sit down. "What do you want to tell me about Michelle?" "I want to tell you the truth. Because what Vivian told you about this being a joke that got out of hand, that's not what happened." "Then what did happen?" Monica takes a deep breath, like someone preparing to jump off a cliff. "Michelle Stevens was my idea, but not as a joke, as revenge." The coffee shop suddenly feels very quiet. Revenge against who? Against you. Monica stares at her coffee cup, like it contains secrets she's not sure she wants to reveal. The coffee shop buzzes with normal Monday lunch conversation. People discussing work deadlines and weekend plans, completely unaware that my understanding of reality is about to shift again. "Revenge against me for what?" I ask. "For getting me fired from Henderson and Associates 3 years ago." I search my memory, trying to place Monica in the context of my wife's work history. 3 years ago, Vivian was up for partner, working long hours and dealing with office politics I only heard about in fragments during dinner conversations. "I don't remember you working there 3 years ago." "Because you never paid attention to Vivian's work life. You never asked about her colleagues or her cases or the pressure she was under trying to make partner." "What does this have to do with me getting you fired?" Monica's laugh is bitter. "You didn't get me fired directly. But your marriage problems caused Vivian to make mistakes that cost me my job." "What marriage problems? 3 years ago things were fine between us." "Were they?" "Because Vivian spent months talking about how distant you'd become, how you never listened when she talked about work, how you seemed more interested in your engineering projects than your wife's career." I think back to 3 years ago. Casey was a freshman in high school. I was working on a major infrastructure project that required long hours and weekend work, and yes, I was probably distracted. But marriage problems? I had no idea Vivian was unhappy. She never said anything to me about being unhappy. She said plenty. You just weren't listening. Monica pulls out her phone and shows me a series of text messages dated from 3 years ago. Screenshots of conversations between her and Vivian, complaints about feeling neglected and undervalued, frustration about carrying the emotional weight of the marriage while I focused on work. She was confiding in you about our marriage? She was confiding in her friend about her problems. That's what friends do. And somehow this led to you getting fired? Vivian was distracted during a major case. She missed deadlines, forgot to file important documents, made errors that cost the firm a significant settlement. When the partners reviewed her performance, they decided she wasn't ready for partnership. I still don't see how that's my fault. Because her distraction was caused by your emotional neglect. She was so focused on trying to fix your marriage that she couldn't concentrate on work. And when she didn't make partner, the firm had to restructure. My position was eliminated. The logic is twisted, but not entirely illogical. If Vivian was struggling in our marriage and that affected her work performance, and her poor performance led to office restructuring that cost Monica her job, then in Monica's mind, I'm responsible for her unemployment. So you decided to get revenge by helping my wife create a fake identity. I decided to show you what it felt like to lose something important because of someone else's selfishness. By destroying my marriage? By giving Vivian a chance to experience what she was missing. Michelle Stevens wasn't about revenge initially. She was about helping your wife remember who she used to be before she became Mrs. Bennett Walsh. Monica's phone buzzes with a text. She glances at it, then looks back at me with an expression I can't quite read. But it became about revenge pretty quickly, didn't it? When Vivian started actually meeting men, when she opened the secret bank account, When she began spending your money on hotel rooms and expensive dinners, that's when I realized Michelle could be more than just a fantasy. You encouraged her to have affairs. I encouraged her to live her life, to experience what it felt like to be desired and appreciated and treated like an individual instead of just someone's wife. And you helped her cover it up. I helped her maintain the fiction that everything was fine at home while she explored other possibilities. Other possibilities? She was married. She had a daughter. She had responsibilities. She had a life sentence to a man who took her for granted. The accusation stings because there's truth in it. I did take Vivian for granted. I did get caught up in work projects and assume our marriage was stable enough to run on autopilot. I did fail to notice that my wife was unhappy enough to create an entirely different identity. So this whole thing was planned? The dating profile, the hotel meetings, all of it? Not planned exactly, but encouraged, supported. I helped her see that Michelle could be more than just online fantasy. And now she's in treatment, claiming it was all behavioral addiction. Monica's expression shifts, becoming almost sympathetic. That's where the story gets complicated. More complicated than my wife's coworker orchestrating the destruction of my marriage for revenge? Vivian doesn't know about the revenge part. I stare at her, trying to process this latest revelation. What do you mean? I mean, Vivian thinks Michelle Stevens was her idea. She thinks I was just being a supportive friend, helping her explore her feelings and rediscover her identity. She has no idea that I was deliberately encouraging her to destroy your marriage. Why are you telling me this now? Because she's in treatment, trying to get better, and she's going to come home thinking that her recovery will fix everything. But you can't fix something that was sabotaged from the beginning. Monica's phone buzzes again. This time she answers it. Hello, Vivian. How's treatment going? I can hear my wife's voice through the phone, though I can't make out the words. Monica responds with appropriate supportive comments while watching my face for reactions. That's wonderful that you're making progress. Yes, I think Bennett is starting to understand that this was about addiction, not choice. More conversation I can't follow. Then Monica says, Actually, Bennett is here with me right now. We're having coffee and discussing how to support you when you get home. She hands me the phone. Hi, I say, not sure what else to offer. Bennett, I'm so glad you're talking to Monica. She can help you understand what I was going through, why Michelle became necessary. We're definitely having an enlightening conversation. The counselors here think family therapy would be beneficial once I'm discharged. Monica could participate since she was such an important support system during my crisis. I look across the table at Monica, who's watching me with an expression that might be amusement or might be anticipation. That's an interesting idea. I love you, Bennett. I know I hurt you, but I'm getting the help I need to make sure it never happens again. We'll talk more when you get home. I can't wait. Monica, are you still there? Monica takes the phone back. I'm here. Yes, Bennett seems very receptive to understanding your situation. I think he's starting to realize that Michelle was a symptom of deeper problems that can be addressed through treatment. After she hangs up, we sit in silence for a moment. The coffee shop continues its normal Monday afternoon rhythm while I try to process the magnitude of what Monica has just revealed. She has no idea you were manipulating her. She has no idea, because she doesn't want to have any idea. It's easier to believe that Michelle was her own psychological crisis than to accept that her trusted friend was systematically destroying her marriage. Why tell me? Why not just let her come home and try to rebuild? Because you deserve to know the truth, and because Vivian deserves to know the truth, even if she can't handle it right now. What do you want from me? I want you to decide whether you're going to let her come home believing a lie, or whether you're going to force her to confront what really happened. And if I force her to confront the truth, then she'll have to choose between accepting that her best friend betrayed her or continuing to believe that Michelle Stevens was her own psychological breakdown. Either way, the marriage is over. The marriage was over the moment she answered Michelle's phone and started meeting men in hotel rooms. Everything since then has just been damage control. Monica gathers her things and prepares to leave. One more thing, she says. The treatment center? I recommended it to her. I know the staff, I know their approach, and I know they'll support whatever narrative she wants to believe about her behavior. So the treatment is fake too? The treatment is real, but it's designed to help her forgive herself, not to actually address the underlying issues that led to Michelle Stevens. Which were a husband who took her for granted and a friend who took advantage of her vulnerability. Monica leaves me sitting in the coffee shop with the wreckage of everything I thought I understood about the past 6 months. My wife didn't just have an affair, she was manipulated into having multiple affairs by someone seeking revenge against me. The woman I'm supposed to trust to help rebuild our marriage is the same woman who orchestrated its destruction. I call Jake. The situation just got more complicated, I tell him. How much more complicated? I explain Monica's confession, the revenge motive, the systematic manipulation of Vivian's unhappiness into active betrayal. Holy hell, Bennett. This isn't just adultery anymore. This is conspiracy. What are my options? Legally, you can pursue charges against Monica for fraud, conspiracy, maybe even extortion, depending on how deep this goes. Against Vivian, the adultery stands regardless of whether she was manipulated into it. And practically, you need to decide whether you want to expose Monica's role and potentially destroy what's left of Vivian's support system, or let your wife come home believing that her recovery will fix everything. Some choice. There's a third option, which is confront them both, together. Force Monica to admit her manipulation in front of Vivian, and let your wife decide how to handle the truth. That sounds like a recipe for complete chaos. Maybe. Or maybe it's the only way to clear the air completely before you decide whether this marriage can be salvaged. After hanging up, I drive home to find Casey in the kitchen doing homework. She looks up when I enter, and I can see the question in her eyes. Any news about Mom? How was school? I ask. Fine. Did you hear from Mom today? She called while I was having coffee with Monica from her office. Monica? I remember her. She used to come to Mom's work parties before she got fired. Wait, you remember Monica working at Mom's firm? Yeah, she was always really nice to me. She got laid off or something a few years ago, and Mom was really upset about it. Do you remember Mom being upset about work around that time? Casey thinks for a moment. She was stressed about something. You were working on that big bridge project and weren't home much, and Mom seemed sad a lot. She kept saying she felt like she was handling everything by herself. Did she talk to you about it? Not directly, but I could tell she was unhappy. She kept asking if I thought you still loved her, stuff like that. The picture becomes clearer. Vivian struggling with feeling neglected, confiding in Monica about her marriage problems, Monica offering support that gradually became manipulation. My wife didn't wake up one day and decide to create Michelle Stevens. She was guided there by someone who saw an opportunity for revenge. Dad, are you okay? You look really upset. Just processing some new information about Mom's situation. Is she going to be okay? I don't know, honey. I honestly don't know. That evening, I sit in my home office surrounded by engineering drawings and try to make sense of human motivations that don't follow logical patterns. In my professional life, I can calculate load-bearing requirements and stress tolerances with mathematical precision, but human relationships operate according to different rules, with variables I don't understand and outcomes I can't predict. My phone rings. Nate. How was your day? He asks, enlightening and disturbing. I tell him about Monica's confession, the revenge motive, the systematic manipulation of my wife's marital dissatisfaction. So your wife was set up? My wife was encouraged. There's a difference. Is there? If someone manipulates you into making bad choices, are you still responsible for the consequences? That's what I'm trying to figure out. You know what this reminds me of? Those cases where someone gets talked into robbing a bank by an undercover cop. Yeah, they committed the crime, but they never would have done it without encouragement from law enforcement. Except Monica isn't law enforcement. No, but she's someone your wife trusted. Someone who used that trust to encourage destructive behavior for personal revenge. So what do I do? That depends. Do you want justice, or do you want your marriage back? Can I have both? Probably not. If you expose Monica's manipulation, your wife will feel like a victim instead of someone who needs to take responsibility for her choices. But if you don't expose it, you're building any potential reconciliation on a foundation of lies. And if I just walk away from the whole situation? Then Monica wins. She destroys your marriage and faces no consequences for the manipulation. This is impossible. No, it's just complicated. But Bennett? Whatever you decide, make sure you can live with it long term. Because once you choose a path forward, there's no going back. After hanging up, I walk through my house, looking at 18 years of shared history. Wedding photos, family vacations, Casey's school projects displayed on the refrigerator. Evidence of a life built together, now contaminated by the knowledge that it was systematically undermined by someone seeking revenge for a workplace grievance I didn't even know existed. Tomorrow, I need to decide whether to tell Vivian the truth about Monica's role in creating Michelle Stevens, whether to let my wife continue believing that her double life was a psychological breakdown rather than a calculated manipulation, whether to fight for a marriage that was sabotaged from the inside or walk away from 18 years of history because the foundation was compromised by someone else's agenda. The house feels empty without Vivian, but it also feels honest in a way it hasn't for months. No more wondering where she really is or what she's actually doing. No more Michelle Stevens living a parallel life, funded by our daughter's college money. Just me and Casey and the wreckage of everything we thought we knew about our family. In the morning, I'll have to decide what comes next. Tuesday morning arrives with the kind of crisp October weather that usually makes me optimistic about the day ahead. But today, I wake up knowing that I need to make a decision that will determine the future of my family. Tell Vivian the truth about Monica's manipulation, or let her continue believing that Michelle Stevens was her own psychological crisis. Casey is unusually quiet at breakfast, picking at her cereal while scrolling through her phone with less enthusiasm than usual. Everything okay? I ask. Some of my friends are asking questions about Mom, about why she's been gone and when she's coming back. What kind of questions? The usual gossip stuff. Sarah Chen heard from her mom that Mom is in rehab, and Jessica thinks you guys are getting divorced but don't want to tell me until after graduation. The rumor mill in small towns operates with frightening efficiency. Vivian has been gone for 4 days, and already the story has evolved from stress-related treatment to drug rehabilitation to imminent divorce. What have you been telling them? That Mom is getting help for anxiety and work stress, which is what you told me. But Dad, people are starting to make up their own stories. Let them talk. The truth is between us and Mom. But what if the truth is worse than what people are making up? The question catches me off guard. Casey is asking whether the reality of our family situation is worse than the gossip, and I'm not sure how to answer. Why would you think that? Because you've been acting like someone who found out something really bad, not just worried about Mom's health, but angry and hurt and confused all at the same time. My 17-year-old daughter reads me better than I realized. There are some complicated issues between your mom and me that we're trying to work through. Issues that might end your marriage? Possibly. Casey sets down her spoon and looks at me directly. I need to know what's really happening. Not the sanitized version you think I can handle, but the actual truth. Because if you guys are getting divorced, I need to start making plans for college and senior year and all the stuff that's going to be different. She's right. Casey deserves to know what's happening to her family, especially since the consequences will affect her future. Your mom has been having relationships with other men. She created a fake identity online and used it to meet people and spend time with them in hotels. She spent your college fund doing this. Casey stares at me for a long moment, processing information that confirms her worst suspicions about why our family has been falling apart. How long? 6 months that I know of. And you just found out? I found her second phone last week. Everything unraveled from there. Is that why she's in treatment? Because she was cheating? She's in treatment because she claims the behavior was compulsive, like an addiction. She wants to work on the underlying issues and rebuild our marriage. Do you believe her? I don't know. The situation is more complicated than just your mom making bad choices. I tell Casey about Monica's confession, about the manipulation and revenge motive, about the systematic encouragement of Vivian's marital dissatisfaction. So, Mom was set up? Mom was influenced, but she still made the choices. She still created Michelle Stevens and spent months lying to both of us. Casey absorbs this information with the resilience that continues to amaze me. What are you going to do? I'm going to drive to the treatment center today and tell your mom the truth about Monica. Then she can decide whether she wants to continue treatment based on accurate information about what really happened. And then? And then we'll see if there's anything left of our marriage worth saving. What about college? What about the money? I'll figure out the money. You're going to college, Casey. Whatever happens between your mom and me, that's not changing. She nods, then surprises me by getting up and hugging me. I'm sorry this is happening to our family. Me too, honey. Me too. The treatment center is an hour's drive through countryside that's just beginning to show fall colors. It's the kind of facility that looks more like a resort than a medical institution, all stone and glass and carefully landscaped grounds designed to project healing and renewal. I call ahead to arrange a meeting with Vivian, explaining to the receptionist that there's important family information that needs to be discussed in person. They schedule me for a 2:00 appointment in one of their family conference rooms. While I'm driving, Monica calls. Have you decided what you're going to tell Vivian? She asks. I've decided to tell her the truth. The whole truth? Everything. Your revenge motive, the systematic manipulation, the way you encouraged her to destroy our marriage for your own satisfaction. That's going to devastate her. She's already devastated. The question is whether she's going to recover based on accurate information or continue living in a fantasy where Michelle Stevens was her own psychological breakdown. What about our friendship? What about the support system she's going to need when she gets home? You should have thought about that before you decided to use her marital problems as an opportunity for revenge. Bennett, you don't understand the whole situation. Then explain it to me. Vivian was genuinely unhappy in your marriage. I didn't create that unhappiness, I just helped her recognize it and do something about it. By encouraging her to have affairs and spend our daughter's college fund on hotel rooms? By helping her remember who she was before she became Mrs. Bennett Walsh and Casey's mom. And who was that? Someone who had dreams and ambitions beyond suburban domesticity. Someone who wanted to travel and experience life and be desired by men who saw her as an individual. Someone single and childless. Someone free to make choices based on her own desires instead of family obligations. So this was about liberating my wife from the burden of being married to me? This was about giving your wife permission to want more than what she had. By systematically destroying what she had. By showing her what else was possible. I hang up on her and drive the rest of the way in silence, thinking about the conversation I'm about to have with Vivian. How do you tell someone that their trusted friend orchestrated the destruction of their marriage? How do you separate genuine marital problems from manipulated dissatisfaction? The treatment center lobby looks like an expensive hotel, all comfortable seating and soothing colors, and the kind of soft music designed to promote relaxation. I check in with the receptionist and wait in a family conference room that's clearly designed for difficult conversations. Vivian arrives at exactly 2 o'clock, looking better than I expected. She's wearing casual clothes instead of her usual professional armor, and her face has a clarity I haven't seen in months. Treatment appears to be agreeing with her. Bennett, I'm so glad you came. I've been wanting to talk to you about the progress I'm making. We need to talk about Monica. Her expression shifts slightly, becoming more guarded. What about Monica? About her role in creating Michelle Stevens, about why she encouraged you to have affairs and destroy our marriage. Monica didn't encourage me to do anything. She was supportive when I was struggling, but the choices were mine. The choices were yours, but they were influenced by someone who had her own agenda. I tell Vivian about Monday's coffee shop conversation, about Monica's confession of revenge, about the systematic manipulation of Vivian's marital dissatisfaction into active betrayal. Vivian listens without interrupting, her face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and finally something that might be recognition. That's not possible, she says when I finish. Monica was my friend. She was helping me work through my feelings about our marriage. She was using your feelings about our marriage to get revenge against me for her job loss 3 years ago. What job loss? When you didn't make partner and the firm restructured, Monica's position was eliminated. She blames me for your distraction during that time period. That's ridiculous. My work performance had nothing to do with you. Didn't it? You were confiding in Monica about feeling neglected and undervalued in our marriage. She has text messages from 3 years ago documenting your complaints about my emotional unavailability. Vivian's face goes pale as she processes the implications. She kept those messages? She showed them to me yesterday, along with her explanation of how your marital problems gave her the idea for revenge. I don't believe this. Call her. Ask her directly whether she encouraged you to create Michelle Stevens as revenge against me. Vivian pulls out her phone, then hesitates. What if you're right? Then you need to decide whether you want to continue treatment for a psychological condition you don't actually have, or whether you want to address the real issues that made you vulnerable to manipulation. And what are those real issues? The same ones Monica identified 3 years ago. I took you for granted. I got caught up in work projects and assumed our marriage could run on autopilot. I failed to notice that you were unhappy enough to be susceptible to outside influence. So, this is your fault? This is both our faults. I created the conditions that made you vulnerable, and you made the choices that destroyed our marriage. Monica just provided the encouragement and opportunity. Vivian stares at her phone for a long moment, then dials Monica's number. Hi, it's me. Bennett is here, and he's telling me some very disturbing things about your role in the Michelle situation. I can hear Monica's voice through the phone, though I can't make out the specific words. Vivian's expression becomes increasingly grim as the conversation continues. Did you or did you not encourage me to meet men in person instead of just chatting online? More conversation. Did you help me open the secret credit card account? More conversation. Monica, I need you to answer one question directly. Was helping me create Michelle Stevens about supporting me, or was it about getting revenge against Bennett? A long pause, then Vivian's face crumples. I see. I understand. No, I don't think we'll be able to maintain our friendship after this. She hangs up and sits in silence for several minutes. She admitted it? She said it started as support, but became about revenge when she realized how much damage Michelle could do to our marriage. She said you deserved to experience the same kind of loss she felt when she got fired. How do you feel about that? Betrayed, manipulated, stupid for trusting someone who was systematically destroying my life. And how do you feel about our marriage? I don't know. The problems Monica exploited were real, Bennett. I was unhappy and feeling neglected and wondering if this was all there was to life. She didn't create those feelings. She just gave me permission to act on them. by encouraging you to have affairs, by helping me remember that I used to be someone besides your wife and Casey's mother. And do you want to be that someone again? I want to be someone who can be happy in a marriage instead of someone who needs to escape from it. Is that possible? I don't know. Is it possible for you to be married to someone who proved capable of such elaborate deception? I don't know either. We sit in the family conference room, two people who've been married for 18 years trying to figure out whether there's anything left worth saving. What happens now? Vivian asks. Now you decide whether you want to continue treatment for behavioral addiction or whether you want to come home and work on the actual problems in our marriage. And if I come home? Then we try couples therapy with someone who understands that Michelle Stevens was about manipulation as much as marital dissatisfaction. And if we can't make it work, then we get divorced and focus on co-parenting Casey through her senior year. What about the money? Casey's college fund. I'll figure out the money. But Vivian, if we're going to try to rebuild this marriage, it has to be based on complete honesty. No more secrets, no more outside influences, no more Michelle Stevens, and no more taking each other for granted, and no more taking each other for granted. Vivian looks around the family conference room with its soothing colors and motivational posters about healing and growth. I want to come home. I want to try to fix what we broke. Even knowing that Monica manipulated you into breaking it? Especially knowing that, because it means the problems between us are solvable if we're both willing to work on them. What about Monica? Monica is no longer part of my life. I'm going to focus on being Vivian Walsh, not Michelle Stevens, and definitely not someone who can be manipulated into destroying her own family. I reach across the table and take her hand. It feels familiar and strange at the same time, like touching someone I used to know very well. This isn't going to be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. Casey knows everything. About Michelle, about the affairs, about the money. How did she take it? Better than I expected. She's angry and disappointed, but she still loves you. And you? Do you still love me? I think about the question, about 18 years of marriage and 6 months of deception, and the possibility of rebuilding something honest from the wreckage. I love who you used to be. I'm willing to find out if I can love who you're becoming. That's more than I deserve. Maybe, but it's what I'm offering. Vivian checks out of treatment that afternoon, 3 weeks earlier than originally planned. We drive home in separate cars, both of us needing time to process the conversation and prepare for the difficult work of rebuilding trust. Casey is waiting when we arrive, sitting at the kitchen table with homework spread around her like a fortress. She looks up when Vivian walks in, and I can see the war between love and disappointment playing out on her face. Hi, Mom. Hi, honey. I'm sorry I've been gone. I'm sorry about all of this. Are you better? I'm working on it. We all are. Casey nods and returns to her homework, not ready for more conversation but not rejecting her mother's presence either. It's a start. That evening, the three of us have dinner together for the first time in a week. The conversation is careful and polite, like strangers learning how to be a family again. But we're all there, all trying, all committed to figuring out what comes next. After Casey goes upstairs to finish homework, Vivian and I sit in the living room with the uncomfortable awareness that we need to establish new ground rules for our relationship. I called a marriage counselor, she says. Dr. Sarah Mitchell. She specializes in rebuilding trust after infidelity. When do we start? Thursday afternoon, if that works for your schedule. I'll make it work. Bennett, thank you for coming to get me today. Thank you for telling me the truth about Monica. Thank you for listening. What happens to Monica now? That's up to you. But if you want to pursue charges for fraud or conspiracy, Jake thinks we have a solid case. I just want her out of our lives, completely and permanently. Consider it done. We sit in comfortable silence, two people who've been married for 18 years, trying to figure out how to be married to each other again. Outside, the October evening settles into darkness, and I can hear the distant sounds of normal suburban life continuing around us. Inside, we're starting over. Not starting fresh. Too much has happened for that. But starting over with the knowledge that marriage requires constant attention and that taking each other for granted creates vulnerabilities that others can exploit. Michelle Stevens is gone, erased as completely as if she never existed. But the lessons from her brief life remain, that happiness requires effort, that trust requires vigilance, and that sometimes the greatest threats to a marriage come from people who claim to be helping. Vivian reaches for my hand, and this time it feels like coming home. "We're going to be okay," she says. "Eventually," I agree, "if we work at it. Then let's get to work." And we do.